All right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about this story out of Bitcoin.com. Uh, PayPal's Venmo launches crypto trading for 70 million users to buy and sell cryptocurrencies. And again, the whole point of this is, again, I've talked about this a lot before, but I wanted to kind of reiterate and talk a little bit more is um, cryptos are not going away. Again, a lot of people kind of worried about that, at least people from the outside looking in. I think people that are already in, they already know the reality of this stuff. But um, we already have multiple Canadian ETFs. We got a lot of ETFs in other countries. We have, I think it's up to like nine or something like that ETFs that are pending approval in the States. It's only a matter of time until one of those gets approved, and when that does, I think that'll cause a rise in prices. We have like some of these big banks like the Jamie Dimons of the world, 3, 4 years ago, oh, Bitcoin's a scam. Bitcoin is, all the usual anti-Bitcoin arguments. Now they're coming around to it. Um, Again, I think that this is good news in the long run. Again, Bitcoin, again, it hit a new all-time high. I think it was about a week and a half ago, roughly. I don't remember exactly, but price came down a lot. Again, a lot of people called it a crash. I mean, kind of was a crash. I mean, it went from 81 Canadian was the peak down to about 59 Canadian, I think it was. So pretty good little, probably what, 25-30% drop. We're back up to 54.6 US. I think it's about 68 Canadian. So we're back up a little bit, which is good. Um, I do think we'll trend back up. Absolutely, I think we'll trend back up. I think over the going into the summer, I think things will start to ramp back up. I think it's only a matter of time until it gets to 100,000. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, if it keeps up with the 2017 run up, it'll get to, I think it's like 400,000 US, which is insane. I don't think it gets there. I don't definitely don't think it gets there because again, when we have these halvings, there's going to be diminishing returns because if there wasn't diminishing returns, Bitcoin would get to a billion in 20 or 30 years, right? So there's going to be diminishing returns, but it may not be by that much, right? It may not be by that much. Um, the other thing too is that there's other ones too. I mean, again, a lot of people within the crypto space, I think that this is becoming I think it already is a big issue, but um, within the more hardcore crypto people, they're increasingly becoming anti-Bitcoin, which kind of just, I understand where they're coming from. Their argument is basically Bitcoin isn't really good for sending money, at least small amounts, which is true. But the problem I don't think that these people are considering is, well, I do think they're considering, but I don't think they're actually understanding the severity of it, is that if you want the crypto space to continue to grow, Bitcoin's going to have to continue to grow too. Because if you're someone on the outside looking in on the crypto space right now, if you see Bitcoin crash, what are the odds you get into crypto? Like, chances are you may, but it's highly unlikely you do, right? And they say, oh, well, anyone who isn't in crypto already is, they already missed the. Well, what about like high school kids? What about the libertarian high school kids and whatnot? Like, you want to screw them over? Like, again, so it makes no sense. Again, like I don't understand why, like, we have Bitcoin. At the very least, it can be a store of value. Like, regardless of what you think about Bitcoin's ability to transfer small to medium sized amounts of money, okay, whatever. Again, gold has a $9 trillion market cap and it exists almost exclusively as a store of value. Again, no one's buying anything with gold. You can already buy more things with Bitcoin than you can with gold. Bitcoin, what? $1 trillion market cap, gold, $9 trillion market cap. Even if Bitcoin exists solely as a store of value, it still should go way up from here because we know it's superior to gold. Again, gold's gone up like basically nothing over the last 10 years. over the last 5 years, a little bit. I mean, everyone with a brain knows that there's been a lot of inflation over the last year, especially. Um, but yet gold's almost flat. Like gold's pretty well flat, right? So, and again, I do think it may not be a terrible idea to have a little bit of gold and silver. I'm not saying you should have none necessarily. Again, all of it's up to you, right? Again, do your own due diligence. Obviously, I'm not the biggest expert in the world or anything along those lines. Um, but cryptos are clearly superior to gold and silver. Like it's not even close to like people who even want to have the debate. Like no, they're not even close. Um, but again, my main point is for all the Bitcoin bears out there that are pro crypto, it's like I don't understand your point. Like your point makes no sense. Why not? Let's say in a perfect world you have one crypto that can do everything, but that may not be realistic. So let's deal with the reality we have right now. Why not? You have Bitcoin as the store value, right? The hedge against inflation, the all those kind of things, and yet you have other ones, maybe it's one, maybe it's multiple other ones that are used for day-to-day transactions, right? And you find exchanges or find ways to reduce the amount of fees to convert. And the other crazy thing too is a lot of these people that I hear, not all of them, but a lot of them, they're people that have like tens of millions of dollars in crypto, and yet they're worried about like $20 for transactions. Like, again, for someone like me, yeah, that's a big deal. But why is it a big deal for you got tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto? Like, I really don't get it. Um, and the other thing I don't think they bring up too is that it's not impossible to innovate, right? It's not impossible. Again, the Lightning Network is the big thing. Like the Lightning Network is supposed to be the thing that saves Bitcoin, at least when it comes to day-to-day transactions. They've been working on it for a long time. They've been saying it's 6 months away for quite a while now. I don't know about that. Like I really don't know. But the one thing I do know is that, I mean, here's the thing. Let's say Bitcoin does go to zero. I would be I look 10 years from now, Bitcoin's at zero. I would bet money that the crypto space as a whole will have a lower market cap adjusted for inflation then than it does now, right? And that's something that I really don't get why a lot of these people don't want to acknowledge. Like it just kind of, I don't get it. Um, and again, I think they're a little idealistic. Not that that's a bad thing in some ways, but again, like you got to give this stuff time too. Like you got to give this stuff time. And the other thing too is I think a lot of these people, they've, not that this is a bad thing either, but they've gotten used to making these like hundreds of percent return on investment, in a year for like 10 years. And it's like, why can't I keep doing that? I'm maybe again, I'm trying to think up reasons here because again, like in my mind, it makes absolutely no sense to trash Bitcoin as a whole. If you want to say they got to improve the transaction stuff, yeah, absolutely, I think they do too. But to tell people like don't buy any of it, you got to get all this, like come on, right? Um, but again, the main point I wanted to bring up here is that I think that this stuff's only going to go further, right? We have, again, within a matter of less than a year, the traditional banking system's view of crypto has changed mightily. And again, I do still think we're early in the process. This is another thing that the anti-crypto people get completely wrong, is that they think that, oh, Bitcoin, it's already late. No, like it still has a lot of room to grow. A lot of these other cryptos still have a lot of room to grow, right? So again, for all the people who think, oh, I missed the boat, no, you really haven't. You really haven't, at least in my opinion, right? Obviously, all this is my opinion, but as far as the best cryptos, I think, again, Bitcoin should be the majority of your um, crypto portfolio. I don't see any reason not to do that. Next ones, again, ETH is good in some ways, but again, that's the other thing too. People don't realize every crypto has its upsides and downsides. There's no perfect crypto. If there was, there would be one with a $10 trillion market cap, right? Um, ETH is good in that it's more efficient than Bitcoin in some ways. It's got the whole smart contracts thing going. But there's also no cap on it on the ETH. At least I don't believe. If the government wanted to go after the founders, they could. That is one of the best things about Bitcoin is that there's the government cannot shut it down. There's no way of shutting it down. Again, this is the reason why XRP is complete hogwash garbage, right? Right? At least in my opinion, right? That number one, there's no fixed supply. Number two, the founders have clearly enriched themselves off of it. Um, right? So again, when you're looking for a crypto, number one, in my mind, it pretty well needs a fixed supply. Now again, I know ETH doesn't, at least I don't think, um, at least not like written into its code like Bitcoin. Um, but again, ETH does have a lot of upside in other ways, and again, ETH already is very established, right? Um, Cardano, I think, has, like I talked about in other videos, I think has some potential. Is basically designed to be better than ETH. Does that mean it's going to have a higher market cap? No. But I do think it has some potential. And then as far as the privacy ones go, you have Monero and Pirate Chain. Again, those are some other ones that I do would personally have some exposure to, and I suggest other people have some exposure to as well because, um, well, for obvious reasons, right? They're privacy coins, right? So basically, should be pretty self-explanatory to why you want some exposure to those ones. But basically, in a nutshell, at the end of the day, um, the crypto space is going to continue to grow. Again, do I know that 100% sure? No, but I would say for probably 95% certainty, the crypto space is going to keep growing, right there. And for the simple reason, too, that number one, the government isn't going to ban it. Like the chances of them banning it are pretty low. And number two, even if they ban it, it may be even better for it. I mean, you look at there's been multiple countries that have banned it. I think Nigeria is one of them, and there's some other ones as well, banning Bitcoin, but transactions went up after them banning it. I think one of the countries even repealed the ban because of it. Right? So again, the government cannot ban these. Now, this is the reason why I'm not a big fan of XRP and to some degree ETH, in that if the government wanted to ban those ones, they probably could, or at the very least, they would have a lot more likely chance of doing it than Bitcoin or Monero or Pirate Chain, especially, right? Um, so yeah, that is the one concern too, is that when you're looking into a crypto, the one thing you do want to look into as well is that can the government go after someone or some a corporation that is running it basically? Because if they can, that's pretty risky, right? That's pretty risky. So that's something I would be a little bit worried about too when you're looking into cryptos. But again, at the end of the day, a lot of people talk, oh, you got to get into the altcoins, but again, like you look at Bitcoin, I think it's like 190% return over the last 10 years per year. Like if that's not enough to satisfy you, then what is, right? Like seriously. No, again, do I think it's gonna average 190 over the next 10 years? No, I don't think it'll average that much. But I think it probably averages 50 to 100. Wouldn't that would probably be my guess. Now, personally, as long as cryptos beat the market as a whole, like let's do a little bit more because cryptos are so volatile, you'd want a little bit more of a return. But in my mind, if I can get at least 15%, 15 to 20% return per year, I would be happy with that. Now, obviously, I want the 200% return, absolutely, right? But again, if I could easily beat the market as a whole, I would be okay with that, right? Because that's the way you grow your money. And not to mention, too, a lot of these cryptos, Bitcoin, ETH, Cardano, you can put them, I wouldn't suggest doing it with a lot of it, but maybe some of it just to make a little bit of money. You can put it on platforms like BlockFi, and I know you can stake your Cardano, and you can make 4 or 5% interest per year on that. And not only that, they pay your interest in the crypto, right? So that's where you start to get that compounding growth, and that you put a little bit of crypto on these platforms and look back 5, 10 years later, and you've 10, 20x your initial investment, right? Like this is the thing I always tell beginners, right? And that um, what I would do, looking back on it, is just put like depending on how conservative you are, but put like 1,000 or no, like 100 to 1,000, depending on like on what you want to do. Just put that on BlockFi and call it a day, if that's what you're really worried about, right? Because again, you put 1,000, like I'll call it right now. You put $1,000 on BlockFi, assuming they don't change their rates too much, which they probably will, but let's assume they keep it the same. If you put $1,000 on BlockFi or a platform similar to it, I know there's other ones that are similar to it, like Voyager. There's a handful of them. I think that'll be $100,000 10 years from now. Number one, with the compounding growth, and number two, with the fact that Bitcoin's going to keep going up. My number is about 50% a year for the next 10 years. Right? I think it ends up 10 years is a long way to a long ways off, but personally, again, I think it's going to be around 100 to 150. Um, this time around, maybe upwards of 200. Again, let's say 100 to 200 this time around, and then I think it probably hits a million the next time around. So again, 10 years from now, it'll definitely be in the millions, I believe. Again, but there's so many other things that could happen that's so hard to predict. Again, like imagine if you were making predictions on Bitcoin 10 years ago, right? Like even the most bullish people on Bitcoin wouldn't be saying that it's $55,000 US, right? Like it was like $10, like, right? So again, like that's something people need to realize too. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to this kind of stuff, but the trend is absolutely in the right direction. This is the other thing too. Like if the government was going to ban it, at least in the states, they probably would have did it by now, or at the very least, someone would have brought it up. But there's no one that's even brought it up, right? So again, like um, in my mind, it's going to be fairly clear sailing. Now again, it's going to be a bumpy ride. There's going to be 20, 30, maybe even 40, 50% corrections along the way. But I also think that we're we're going to have a day within the next month or two, probably, where it goes up 10, 15,000 again. We're going to have a week where it goes up 30, 40, 50%, I think. It's only a matter of time in my mind. But again, we're going to have the corrections too. This is the thing. Like we're going to have the corrections, but we're also going to have the even bigger run-ups, right? So um, this is more good news at the end of the day. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. If you haven't already, make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, I would very much appreciate whatever support I can get, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe and stay tuned for more.